Visual Files still has a very large user base, very successful, adopted mainly in the transactional space, heavily into insurance, conveyancing, debt collection, those kind of areas. In a number of our larger firms, though, even before the pandemic, but very much after the pandemic, it was where we've got cloud, we have a cloud strategy, and your product is client server. So at some point, whilst we enjoy using your product at the moment and it's driving the efficiencies that we need, you need to be able to move it into the cloud. So the challenge was, how do we take a product that's proven, and very much like Microsoft Word, that's been around 20, 30, 40 years, how do we take something that's good and move it into the cloud? So that was our first challenge. Lexis have a partnership with Microsoft globally. So we approached Microsoft and said, how do we change our architecture so that we can come and deploy in Azure? So that was our initial angle. When we started to do it, we were breaking elements of the product down, able to separate the database away from different layers. And we realized at the time that we had an opportunity to try and develop something a little bit different for the corporate and commercial space. So traditionally in our user base, we may be in a 4,000 person firm, but we'll only be on 1,000 desktops because we're in the insurance area, but we're not in the corporate area. Even in Clyde & Co, at the time when we engaged, I think we were on about 200 desktops in an acquisition from Scotland. So we weren't across the board in any shape or manner. When we did engage with Clyde & Co, they would say, look, we like Visual Files. It needs to be modern, it needs to be cloud enabled, but we won't be putting it on every desktop. And that's where the discussion started. And we said, well, actually, we've been developing something in the background. We believe we have this light touch matter management solution that we can offer to people via the web, via Azure. It's not Visual Files, it's a new product, but it can connect to the same database. So it can share the same data store as all your Visual Files users. So you've still got one version of the truth, but the way that your fee earners and lawyers will interact with the products is completely different. And it's more light touch. But what we're trying to do conceptually is, with all the challenges that clients are bringing, demanding more transparency, demanding to see more MI, what we're trying to do is say, well, look, we've been doing this with case management for the last 20 plus years. Why don't we bring some of those tips and tricks and make them available to you, but in the kind of solutions that you'd actually use rather than a full-blown case management system. And if you speak to Nick and say, would your corporate and commercial guys use a product like Visual Files? The answer would be no. So we'd want to appeal to every desktop. And that's a solution that we believe with Everyfile, we're able to say to people, your transactional lawyers can use a proper sawdust on the floor case management system. Everybody else in your organization still requires somewhere to store a file digitally. And if you're using Outlook and Excel spreadsheets and OneDrive, or you've got multiple different systems, that's not ideal when you have all your GDPR and DPA regulations. Where is all your data being stored? How do you have any kind of consistency across your practice? So that's the opportunity that we saw when we began developing Everyfile.